Did anyone say Justin Thomas was losing steam? Well, someone forgot to tell the Player of the Year as he wins the inaugural CJ Cup at 9 Bridges over Mark Leishman in a playoff. Not that anyone could watch it live. Hold on to that thought. We'll preview the first big event of the 2018 season, the WGC-HSBC, with the latest odds, stats, and picks. As Prime Sports Golf, brought to you by Pro Golf Weekly on Prime Sports Network, starts now. All right, it's Wednesday, October 25th, 2017. I'm your host, Greg DePalma. We're 4 weeks away from the end of the PGA Tour season, or actually, the year ends in 2017. The 2018 season, of course, which is underway, continues in January after these next 4 weeks. But again, a big one, WGC, World Golf Championship event from Shanghai. And we'll talk about that event and much more. Welcome in my co-hosts, Jeff Shane and Joel Cook. Jeff is a PGATour.com contributor. You can find his first look reports every Friday prior to every event on the PGA Tour. So, Jeff, we've got a good one going on here this week. But I was really surprised. I mean, I guess maybe you'll tell me. Why is everybody not here? No Rory, no Spieth, no Day, no Garcia, no Justin Thomas, no Ricky Fowler. What's going on?
Players need an off season. Some of them are, such as Rory, have taken the rest of the year off to deal with injuries. And, even Justin Thomas, you mentioned how, he won even though he was gassed. And he'd been talking about being gassed for a couple of weeks. And even afterward, he was saying he was definitely looking forward to getting reacquainted with his couch. But I think that in the quest to find proper rest, to recharge your batteries and not get burned out, it really becomes an issue of where do players take their off season, because the way the schedule is laid out, it's kind of great in that you've got big events every so often, but every other sport has a truer off season. And if you're having to schedule your own off season, you might have to miss a few big events. And I think that this is something that the world tours kind of need to figure out.
All right. Also joining us is lead writer from ProGolfWeekly.com, and that is Joel Cook. Joel, what did you think about the new golf course last week?
It was beautiful. It was really nice seeing them all at a new place. It was kind of interesting. That first day everyone's going low. I think it was 63, some 64, 65s, and everyone thinks it's going to be really easy. This is going to be like Malaysia again. And the next 3 rounds were just brutal once the wind started picking up and the greens started firming up. And then we got a really good battle at the end there between Thomas and Leishman. It started off exciting, ended exciting, great aesthetics. I enjoyed it. I think they should keep it in the rotation for a while.
All right. Well, we'll see about that. And definitely did look like everybody thought it was a test because of the conditions. We'll see if the wind, and it would be nice if the winds, maybe the time of year. Let's hope that's the case, because we don't want to see 22 under wind and that. So it probably gives them another year at least. And then we'll see. And maybe if there's no wind next year and it is 22 under par, then maybe everybody will start thinking about maybe some other future venues. But yeah, absolutely. Looked like it was a winning test, Jeff. No reason to think that we won't see this location for a while.
Absolutely. Got to remember that this is the only South Korean golf course that ranks in the top 100 in the world, and so I don't think that the venue would change at all unless the course decided that they were better off not hosting the tournament. What you may see in future years is setup changes, narrower fairways, or perhaps shaved areas around the greens. But this is the best golf course that South Korea has. As Joel mentioned, it's really, really picturesque. It's not even on the mainland. It's on an island just south of the Korean mainland, on a volcanic island. It had some great visuals. The pluses far outweigh the minuses.
And by the way, I think I mentioned Day in that group. He is playing this week. He's just never played here before, which is kind of strange. That Jason's never been here before. But maybe this is also because, I mean, usually Jeff, he does that Australian thing, right? That's his normal pattern. Does that also come into play based on the fact that he didn't have a great season, that he maybe wants to kind of get more competition, get the juices flowing, or is it just a coincidence that he's not in Australia this year?
I think that it comes down to how he wants to manage his time off. If he is not entered in Australia, and let's face it, most Australians go back and support their home tour unless they are injured or other items get in the way.
Yeah, he could still go there, right? I mean, when do those events take place? Right after the PGA Tour season, that December time period? Is that when it?
Yeah, actually, I think the first one, the Australian Open, is actually our Thanksgiving weekend. So It's last week of November and the first 2 weeks of December. So certainly, I'm sure, guys like Mark Leishman and those guys are planning to play at least a couple of those events. And it would surprise me if Jason Day was to not show up for at least one. And usually for tour pros, if they go to one, they'll go for at least two.
Yeah, and look,
Spieth usually show up for one of those. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
If it doesn't, Jordan Spieth usually show up for that one too out in Australia. That would be a good time to see him.
Yeah, Jordan Spieth has already confirmed that he will return to the Australian Open this year.
Okay, and is that, what is that other? So what do they have over there? They have what is it that weird format they have over there? Is that what that is? Or
no,
is that something?
No,
what is that? What's the other one called?
I'm not sure.
Or is it a team event, right? Is it a team event that they have over there? I forget what it's called.
Well,
what
the
it's
World
called?
Cup.
The World Cup. Okay, that's what it. And
yeah.
It was in Australia last year, wasn't it?
It was in Australia last time. Maybe that's where the confusion comes in.
Is it every year kind of thing, or is it every other
year?
No,
it's an alternate year thing.
Is it all okay? So, but yeah, okay. Well, we'll see. And look, probably just a coincidence that we're seeing. I don't know. I'm sure Jason will probably have the question asked to him, or maybe he already has it asked to him, why he decided to play here for the first time. But it's good. It's good to have him there, since we're not going to see some of the other top players. As far as the other event last week that was important to note, Joel, and that was Sergio Garcia winning over in Europe. So another win in which has been a banner year for Sergio Garcia. It's not that he's had a ton of wins, but he's had several wins, the Masters, and so he's got his game going again. It kind of dipped for a while, but we could understand that after winning his first green jacket.
Yeah, that's true. He wasn't playing horribly mid-season, but after the Masters, I don't know if he was just, living it up, trying to be just really comfortable for once. And but the other results seem to be coming back. He had that nice duel down at the end with Joost Luiten, and it had to be great for him and the tournament he's sponsoring to have that win. And that should hopefully it means a lot coming into the race to Dubai and his events over here next year. I mean, it's still hard to believe that he's just 37. He's still right in his prime, and now that he has some big victories on his resume, he can kind of relax a little bit now, and he'll be an exciting player to watch coming up here. That was a fun tournament, though. There was at one point Loudon had gained 4 strokes on 4 shots. He went 4 under over a 4-shot period with Albatross and the following birdie on a par 3. There was some good stuff there.
Okay. Meanwhile, Jeff, Bernhard Langer, big shocker, he gets a win to start the Charles Schwab Cup playoffs. So, the Schwab Cup playoffs, if you want to be cool about it. So, what is that? Is that four events? 3?
Their playoff is a 3-event playoff, and maybe the precursor to what they're going to wind up doing on the PGA Tour is they decide how to revamp their schedule and get their playoffs to end by Labor Day. But 3-event playoff, Langer, even for all the success that Bernhard Langer has had as a member of the PGA Tour champions, this is a first for him. He's never won 6 times in a season. but he did it this week or last week in Virginia with an 18-foot eagle putt on the final hole, leapfrogged him past Scott Verplank. And even though they have a second playoff event this week, no matter what Bernhard Langer does, he's going to have the top seed in the playoffs. And actually, Scott McCarron also locked in the number 2 seed. That's how dominant those two have been over the course of the full season.
Okay. So that they're talking about that. They're talking about with all the schedule changes that are going to come up in the next couple of years about shrinking from 4 to 3 playoff events on the PGA Tour.
That is on the table. It looks like the event in Boston would be the odd event out. What they would do with that, who knows? They've changed sponsors. They've changed charity organizations. Tiger Woods' organization, which helped found that tournament, is no longer involved. And so it's a period of transition for that event after this year. Well, it's actually started because, like I say, Woods is no longer involved. So it'll be interesting to see. But yes, one of the topics on the table is particularly because we've got everything lined up with the Open Championship and the WGC that precedes the playoffs and all of that. How do you work it all in, make it fit, and create some open dates or create some rest opportunities for your top 20, top 30 players in the world to not get fried toward the end of the season?
Now, do we have any updates, Joel, on some of these players that we haven't seen and that we're not going to see for a little while? Any idea when we are going to see? I mean, next time we see Jordan Spieth, going to be in Australia?
Lisa, we have the Hero World Challenge that comes in December too. That's probably the next time when we'll see a lot of these good players together. That's Tiger's event in the Bahamas.
December. Okay.
Yeah, it's an unofficial one. Hideki Matsuyama went last year, but other than that, I mean that's just an unofficial event. So it'll be a while before we see a lot of these guys again. It'll probably be after once we get to that Tournament of Champions in early January. But this week's it's going to be, you can see a lot of players this week that we might not see for a while, except, maybe some off events out in Australia, but they're not going to be ones that the U.S. is going to be much focused on.
All right. And by the way, there are, I believe, 7 of the 12 winners here. I mean, 7 of the 12 past champions of this event, the WGC-HSBC, is not here. So, and that includes Ian Poulter, who won the only event at Mission Hills in 2012. So no Poulter, no Russell Knox, no Bubba Watson.
I think Poulter was an alternate and he didn't get in.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you have to qualify. It's a World Golf Championships event. So Poulter did not qualify. You've got I suppose, a little bigger argument. I don't think Bubba Watson qualified either. Now that his name runs past.
Yeah. So. No Bubba, no Keimer. Again, Garcia's not here, and then you got to go all the way back to the first 2 who wouldn't have made it anyway, Y.E. Yang and David Howell. But no Garcia, no Keimer, no Bubba, no Knox, no Poulter. Again, Phil's the only one to win this twice, right, Jeff?
That's correct.
All right, and he's back for the first time in, 3 or 4 years, right? He
first
hasn't
time
played
since 2014. So, again, Phil trying to take a little time off post-Ryder Cup, post-President's Cup. But this year he's been feeling good about how his game has progressed in the fall, unbeaten at the President's Cup, 3rd at the Safeway Open. And I think he feels he's close enough that he wants to give it one more shot during the calendar year. So he is going to a place where he's comfortable.
Long trip for him to do it, but hey, why not, right? I'm sure he did it in style. What about the golf course, Jeff? Session Golf Club. What do we look forward to here? How does this compare to the rest of the golf courses on tour? What kind of game does it favor, if at all?
It's got some very stout par 5s. It does more often than not favor a bomber. You mentioned the list of former champions. Matsuyama hits it long. Dustin Johnson hits it long. Poulter hit it long enough. Mickelson's a big hitter. So you can definitely take advantage of the par 5s because they are long enough and hard enough that guys like Russell Knox would have a difficult time with that. Last year it was kind of a little bit skewed because you had Matsuyama winning with a score that was just one off the tournament record, but you have to remember that he won by 7 shots. So the rest of the field was facing a little bit tougher of a setup. The second place was only 16 under par. So it's one of those that birdies are out there. You have to find them. And the rest of the time, I think particularly on the weekend, because the wind, again, is supposed to pick up on the weekend, you might have to really look hard to find some birdie holes. Par is going to be a good score on the weekend.
Okay. And anything else regarding this golf course? Joel, what about you? You've been watching them play over there for a while. Anything you like about watching the WGC, and how do you compare it to the other WGC events?
I mean, the fairways are pretty hard to hit, so driving accuracy is going to be important. You see a lot of, like Jeff said, it does seem to favor the bombers. Scoring has been pretty low, but that's dependent on the conditions as always. So
how would you, so for anybody out there that's going, okay, well, it favors the bombers, but hard to hit the fairway. So does that mean it brings out the best players because the longer you hit and the straighter you hit? Because it's not always easy. Usually if you hit long, you're a little bit less accurate.
Yeah, you usually have to kind of be really good at one or the other.
So it's not necessarily you have to be like one of the top 10 drivers. Just be somewhere in the top 30 or 40 of both driving and accuracy.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. Francesco Molinari won it recently. He's more of a approach guy.
Okay.
But it fits in pretty well with the other WGC events. Not quite the field that you get in Mexico or in Akron, but it's a fun watch this time of year. It's as good of a field as you're going to see this time of year.
All right. So what's the pick now? Do I pick first now?
You have the first pick this week.
Finally coming back to me. All right. Sounds good. Jeff, didn't you almost win last week?
If Mark Leishman had not put it in the water on the second playoff hole, or if Justin Thomas had not eagled 18, or birdied 18, I'm sorry, in regulation, we would have had our first winner of the year, yes.
And I must bring this up, but pretty weak to not be, pretty tough. I know nobody did this on purpose, but that was pretty weak that we couldn't. And of course, unless you're, I don't remember what time it was, Eastern time. It probably was around 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, something like that.
It was about 3 in the morning. I was actually up.
Of course you were.
Doing other.
Yes.
I was working as usual and said, well, let's see what's going on at the end of this tournament. And I had it up on, not on the TV, although I understand it was the same on TV, but I had it on, video streaming on my laptop.
Oh, it happened on the video streaming too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it happened in both cases. And after the first playoff hole, the signal just disappeared. And Golf Channel, I suppose, couldn't get it back in time. And so I don't know how those decisions are made, especially at 3 whatever in the morning. But they actually wound back to the last couple of holes of regulation and showed that, at least on the streaming side. And I don't know what happened on the television side of it.
Yeah, that was kind of because I was going through the commercials, and I come back and I was going, well, this isn't unusually long. I got my thumb down. This isn't usually long. I just figured, well, maybe they're just, that's resetting and everything. And then I'm like, and then all of a sudden I'm looking and I'm going, well, wait a sec. I think I saw this already. What's going on here? and I had to rewind to try to figure out what the hell, did I miss something? Did I not understand the scoring? And then it took me about 5 minutes to figure out what the problem was. But that happens. What are you going to do? At least for them that it happened in the middle of the night. That's probably the best time to ever have that screw up is when you probably have the least amount of viewership, live viewership. So never want to.
And I'm sure they had it fixed by the time the replay came on.
Yes. All right. Let's go ahead and get this started then. All right. So first pick, and by the way, the favorite is Dustin Johnson, the 2013 champ. We haven't seen him play. in any of these events since the Tour Championship. So he played here the last couple of years. Matsuyama is 10-1, and he's the defending champ. As you said, Jeff, he won by 7 last year, but we're still wondering whether Matsuyama's got his game going after he was exhausted. So maybe he'll pull a Justin Thomas. And hey, at least I had a week off. And so maybe, yeah, he did. So maybe Matsuyama's a good play as defending champ. And then then there's a big gap to 18-1 and further on down the line. I'll go ahead though, and I'll skip those first two. I'll stick with Jason Day this week. Better odds at 18-1. I know he's never played here before. 11th last week was fine for me. I think we all kind of figure that time is coming, that Jason's going to get into contention and win again. So maybe this is a good opportunity for him to do it. So I'll have Jason Day at 18-1 as my top pick. All right. So that you're next, Joel?
Yeah. And I think let's go with the same top two for 2 weeks in a row. I'll go with Mark Leishman here. He was his last 4 events, he didn't do well at the Tour Championship, but then he had that one dominant win at the BMW, and he's a second and a third in his last 4. I love his aggressive play style for a course like this, where the winning score could get into the low 20s. And if it does get tougher, he showed last week that he could play well with the wind and the conditions there. I don't see. I think he's mature enough where I don't think there's going to be a big letdown this week. I'm comfortable with him at 18-1.
All right, yeah, Leishman. That's a good number on Leishman. The way he's playing, I'm sure Jeff would have taken him, since he's nobody's grabbed Mark Leishman more in this show than Jeff this season, and he's coming off that near win for Jeff last week. But Joel stole Leishman from you, Jeff. So you're next. You could go with one of the top 2 players, or the other guys at 18-1, including Jason Day and Mark Leishman, are Paul Casey. There's our boy again. Paul Casey, who always seems to play well here. This has been a good golf course for Paul Casey, but not a surprise that he shot a 74 on Sunday. So there's that. And then John Rahm is also 18-1, missing the cut last week. So, but those are just the 18-1 shots. Anybody else you like, Jeff?
Actually, there are a lot of guys that I like this week, and I will confirm that I was going to go back to the Leishman well.
Sure.
If I had the opportunity. That said, though, Dustin Johnson plays this course extremely well, and even though the odds aren't as good as the 2 guys that you took, it's a matter of winning, right? And DJ won in 2013, didn't get a chance to defend in 2014 because that's when he was on his hiatus. And then came back and years ago. So it's a course that he likes. He did not have a great playoffs, but he went 4-0-1 at the President's Cup. He's well rested since. I'll take DJ.
All right, DJ, 2013 champ at 8-1 is Jeff's top pick. Okay, I am going to tell you what. I'll take between a couple here. I'm going to go ahead and take Justin Rose, another guy like Jason Day, who is overdue for a win. And last time we saw him play in these events, he was playing very well, best really of the season in the 4 playoff events, with 3 10th place finishes and a runner-up. He does have a couple of top 10s here, hasn't played here in a couple of years, so I'll go with Justin Rose. 22-1 as my second choice. Joel.
I'm going to go back up a little bit. On that first pick, I was torn between Mark Leishman and another guy, and that other guy is still there. That's John Rahm at 18-1. He was disappointing in Spain last week. He had that miscut there, but going into it, he was incredible in the FedEx Cup playoffs. He finishes like 3rd, 4th, and 5th. There was another big one there too. I think this is a course that fits him really well. He's shown that he can play anywhere, and in a field like this, I mean, it's a good, great field, but not elite field. 18-1 odds on him, I think, are really good.
All right. Yep. John Rahm, big surprise. He's never played here before. So sooner or later, we're going to start.
We're going to end that pretty soon.
Yeah, we are. So there you go. He's in the books. as your second choice, Joel. All right, Jeff. So Matsuyama's still on the board, Casey's still on the board, and then you go to Brooks Koepka at 22-1, Tyrrell Hatton and Ross Fisher at 25-1, and then the rest. So any of those players or someone else.
I'm gonna go with one of those names. He's on an incredible streak, and he's kind of known as a streaky player. He kind of disappeared for a big chunk of 2017, but all of a sudden he showed up, won in back-to-back weeks on the European Tour, comes in with a week off, so he comes in rested as well. But Tyrrell Hatton all of a sudden has put himself back on the radar, and even before the back-to-back wins, he had 2 other top 10s. So Tyrrell Hatton's in form. I'm going to go with him.
All right, Jeff is going for a three-peat, 3 in a row, 3 out of 4 weeks. Is that what it would be for Hatton? All right, that's a tough one. Interesting that you got Hatton at 25-1 and Fisher at 25-1. Hatton's won his last 2. Fisher's finished second in his last 2. So Fisher's
also Hatton in both cases.
There you go. So, and by the way, Fisher lost to Phil Mickelson in the 2008 playoff at this event. All right, my third choice, I will go with another player that seemed to be peaking towards the end of the season, and another guy at 22-1, Brooks Koepka. So Koepka, 22-1. He will be and he played here last year for the first time, finishing 40th. All right, Joel. So last pick before the long shots, you have Leishman and Rahm, both at 18-1.
For the third one, I will go with probably the best combination of recent form and past results. Ross Fisher, in the last 2 years of that course, has had T6, T3, and he's like you mentioned, he's runner up the last 2. His final round scores have been amazing. At 61 at St. Andrews and a 63 the next week. He seems very comfortable in these kind of events at this time of year. I'll see if he can keep the hot streak going.
All right, so just as we said, there you go, Fisher. Joel was biting his tongue as I was mentioning Fisher's back-to-back runner-up finishes after Jeff picked Hatton, hoping I wouldn't take Fisher, and then boom, he grabs Fisher. So you got Fisher and Jeff's got Hatton. So you got the first and second place hot European Tour players. And by the way, is this still considered both, Jeff? European Tour,
yeah,
PGA Tour?
All World Golf Championships events count are sanctioned, I suppose, is a better word, by all of the World Golf Tours. And so, yeah, this is actually the final event on the European Tour schedule before their 3-event playoffs begin next week in Turkey.
All right. Okay, so 3 in a row? 3 weeks in a row?
3 weeks in a row for them.
And that's all going to be – so we're going to see a lot of good players. I mean, but Rory's not going to be there, right? Is that what you said, or is he just skipping this week?
That's true. Rory has decided – remember, he's been dealing with that rib injury. He wanted to get X number of starts in so that he did not have to burn any sort of exemption in terms of keeping his European Tour card. So he fulfilled that number with some events that he likes to play close to home, and he has declared himself out for the playoffs.
All right. Jeff, you're next. You got DJ and Hatton.
And a little bit further down at 35-1 is Phil Mickelson. And again, it's not often that he plays this well in the fall,
yep.
And he must be feeling something to decide that he's going to make the flight to China after that third place finish at the Safeway Open. So I'm going to ride his hunch and make him my third pick.
Yeah, he definitely was on my list, and I would have definitely considered him as a top alternate for sure. I took him when he played really well a few weeks ago, so I agree. I think Phil's a must-play this week at 35-1 at those odds because, look, there really hasn't been any excuse to take Phil this season up until now. I think this is really the last couple of events is the time, and so if you're going to take Phil, do it now, and then we probably don't see Phil the same thing until December, Jeff?
We may not see Phil at all until California in January. He typically does not play Tiger's event. He does not play the Sharks shootout, now known as the QBE shootout, in Naples. And he'll have 2 starts in the fall, which I think is a comfortable number for him. He typically does not play Hawaii anymore, so I think the next place we will see him is in Palm Springs, middle of January.
All right, long shot time. Any players that are 50 to 1 or higher? And I've got a few guys here I'm thinking about. I'm going to go with a guy that looks like he may finally be starting to trend in the right direction. We've been waiting for him to get his game going again. So at 55 to 1, I will take Brendan Grace. So we'll see if Brendan can keep moving in the right direction after 15th last week. And he's played here for a few years, 5th just 2 years ago. So that's my first long shot at 55 to 1. Joel, who are you going to go with as a long shot? I have an idea who you're going to go with. If I can guess, but I'll tell you I'll be honest. I'll tell you if I was right or wrong.
I'm pretty sure you're wrong on this one because this is a guy I don't believe I've ever said his name on the show.
Oh, then I'm wrong.
It's a little bit of a gamble, but he's been playing really well lately too, and I think this course may be a good fit for him. At 66 to 1, Kiradek at the Barn Rat.
Oh.
He's someone we've been kind of waiting on for a while, but he's in top 20s in 5 of his last 6. He's in tremendous form right now, right in the periphery of top 100 in the world. And I think his form is looking really good lately, and I do like his odds at 66 to 1.
Okay, there you go. Bonrot. I don't know if anybody has picked him in a long time on this show because he has disappeared. So maybe if his game is starting to round into form, it would be a good week to take him with those odds at 66 to 1. He hasn't played particularly well here, though, so we'll see if he could change that this week. Jeff, who's your top
Yeah, he
long
might be at a disadvantage here because he's a very small guy and a smaller hitter.
All right. Who's your top long shot?
My long shot is going to be a guy that's already had 2 top 12s during this Asian swing. He had a top 20 last year at Shishan, and that is Rafa Cabrera Bello.
Rafa Cabrera Bello. You've been grabbing him lately. He's at 50 to 1, 11th last week. All right. First alternate time. So if either Jason Day, Justin Rose, or Brooks Koepka does not tee it up tonight, let's see. Who am I going to go with? I'm going to go ahead and take Matthew Fitzpatrick at 35 to 1. He won not too long ago. We know he's an up-and-coming star potential player. He's been very consistent lately, even since that win. He's played pretty well here the last couple of years. So I'll go with Fitzpatrick at 35 to 1 as my number 1 alternate. All right, Joel, if Leishman, Rahm, or Fisher don't play, who's your alternate?
Well, this is a guy I'm really surprised that we're not going to have starting because he's been so good at this course and he's been so good lately. That's Francesco Molinari at 35 to 1. He's he's won this event before. He's finished T6 last year. Recently, he had that runner-up at the PGA, and he has a tie for 12th and a tie for 6th in 2 events since. This is a course he clearly likes, and at 35 to 1 odds for someone with his history there, I think it's a really good bet.
All right. Yep. Molinari was definitely on my radar as well. He should be. He's trending in the right direction. As you said, he's played very well here. He's got that win, which was the biggest win of his career, and he's sitting at 35 to 1. So looks like a good choice there for Molinari. Jeff, your alternate in case anything happens to DJ, Hatton, or Mickelson.
Kind of the same argument as Joel just used in selecting Molinari. This is a guy that typically is a starter, and maybe his aches and pains kind of made us shy away from him in the starting lineup, but he was a distant second last year, and he's averaged 68 and change in his last 8 rounds at Shishan. That's Henrik Stenson. And I'll have put an addendum to that is by doing this, we're all leaving Paul Casey off the list.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about that. I think we're all gun shy. Yeah. It's almost like I think it's time for him to maybe win one first, and then we'll go ahead and take him. I think we'll risk it. All right. So yeah, Stenson was the other player that I would have gone with myself if I hadn't taken Fitzpatrick, based on, as you said, Jeff, all his consistency here, done very well over his career here, and his best was last year. And he won not too long ago at Wyndham. So Henrik Stenson at 28-1. All right, my second alternate, I'm going to go ahead, my alternate long shot, go with a guy I took last week. And looked like I had something going there until the 75 final round. It's Lucas Glover at 100-1. So Glover will be, I'll take him again this week and see if maybe he can finish what he didn't finish last week. Joel, I'll be Bonrot is your long shot. So if he doesn't play, who's your alternate?
I'll stay in the European side over there. Let's try Thornborn Olsen this week at 100-1. He's 88th in the world. He played well here in the past, and he played well at the last WGC event. His form, he's been very consistent lately. He's got to pull through on one of these. I could see this being the week.
Okay. Very surprised you did not take another long shot. I'll throw in there after Jeff is done. Jeff, Cabrera Bello was your long shot at 50-1. Who are you going with? As your alternate long shot.
Question. I'm kind of trying to balance three. I guess I'll take the one with the potentially greater upside.
Okay.
And that will be Thomas Peters. We know he can run hot and cold, but all of a sudden sometimes he shows up in big events, and so.
Right.
I'll make Peters at 50-1 my second alternate.
Yeah, I was thinking a little bit about Peters, but yeah, he hasn't played particularly well lately. But it is a big event, as you said. He does play well there at big events. He's played this particular event the last couple of years. He's been okay, a couple top 25s, and he is 50-1. It's a big number. So yeah, Peters not a bad idea. The other players that I was thinking about. And as far as actually, probably the two players that I thought about the most, or the three that I didn't take, were Cantlay at 45-1 because he played really well during the playoff last time we saw him, and then maybe Tommy Fleetwood because he had his best finish last week since the Irish Open. So maybe if his game's going again, we know how good of a season he had at 28-1. And then the long shot that I'm very surprised you didn't go with because you took him last week and he finished fifth is 80-1 shot Brian Harman, Joel.
Yeah, he was good. I don't know if I like this course as much as that one as last week, but I mean he's coming around. He played well at the PGA.
Yeah, he is doing a good job. He's trending in the right direction.
He was someone I was looking at. Paul Dunn. I thought I was originally going to take, but I ended up selling myself on Matthew Barnrat.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard. I mean, Dunn, again, sometimes you look, like what happened with Tyrrell Hatton, he wins, and then you say, well, should I go with him again? And, well, yeah, maybe you should, especially if you took him the first time and he won, and that's what you do. But it's kind of hard. With Dunn, probably harder because that was his first ever win. And so for him to come back and win just a few events after that for a second time is not going to be easy. But Paul Dunn is definitely a player that we've got our eye on for sure. Jeff, what about you?
Well, I looked at Daniel Berger, who has kind of been looking to break through. I think he's probably feeling a little pressure to keep up with some of his peers at this point, but he's actually played well in his one or two appearances at Sheshan. So there was possibility there. I looked at Adam Scott. He had a decent finish last week, but maybe nothing to get too excited about. I also gave some thought to Li Haotong playing in his native land. Sometimes that can create a nice comfort zone. Sometimes that can create a lot of added pressure. I went with the pressure angle and shied away at the end, but I gave him some consideration as well.
I'm really surprised that no one took Fleetwood. He has two tournaments in a row with a 63, and he's maybe not quite as consistent lately, but in these events, he's definitely a good look.
Well, that's who I mentioned as somebody that he was definitely on my radar, and and then the sixth place finish last week. Maybe that is a sign he's back to playing good golf because it's been a few months. If he would have played a little bit better here, I think that would have done it, and I would have probably picked him in there somewhere. But I just didn't like the fact that he hasn't shown much here yet. But he just missed out on my board. Let's see who else. So no Matsuyama. Nobody's gonna buy in that he's gonna pull a Justin Thomas. We've given up on Paul Casey for now, so maybe he'll win.
Burn out on Casey.
Yeah, so maybe
he'll
win.
Finish T5.
Yeah, if he's got the lead after the third round. And let's see, what else? Patrick Reed, Tony Finau, you've taken him a lot lately. Actually, both of you guys have over the season, especially recently. And he's 33-1, along with Patrick Reed, who was 11th last week. Schauffele finally ran out of gas at 72nd. He was almost dead last week at 35-1. Pat Perez still playing good golf. 5th last week. He's 35-1. Matt Kuchar, Jeff, you did not go the Cooch way at 40-1. I know you've taken Adam Scott a lot lately, but I know you just mentioned him. I mean, I think he's got to start showing something, don't you? Though at this point, I mean, he's got to get into like the top 10.
Yeah, right now he's stacking up a lot of top 25s and making a very nice living for himself, but he's not getting into contention. That's exactly it. He hasn't. I'm trying to remember the last time that we saw him. Even within breathing distance on a Sunday. And he might have to go all the way back to the Masters.
And then also the other players that Alexander Noren was someone I was considering as a long shot. He hasn't been bad. I'm actually kind of surprised that in this field that he was 50-1. We know what kind of a season he had last season. And so when I saw it at 50-1, I was like, oh, did I miss something? Was he really dropped off that much? Because I know he's played in Europe the last few weeks. And okay, yeah, if you look back at since his BMW PGA Championship win on the European Tour several months back, he had a couple of decent showings since then, including 6th, which was a nice showing at the Open Championship. Then he was 6th at the Omega European Masters. That was just a few weeks ago. I'm just kind of surprised. No respect there at 50-1 for Alexander Noren. And then also keep in mind Chez Reavie. We've talked a lot about him recently because he keeps doing what he did again last week, finishing 15th. So, but that's not going to get him in the winners column, though. Sooner or later, you would think that maybe he'll have a really good 4th round. And maybe he'll go from 10th to 1st and put himself in contention to win. But, hey, Chez Reavie's a pretty good fantasy pick. Don't you think, Joel, with as consistent as he's been for several months?
Yeah, absolutely. He's got to be kind of a DraftKings wonder right now. With someone who's not, costing a lot but putting up good results. He's every week he seems to be like T12, T13 lately. He doesn't seem to miss cuts anymore, which, I mean, he can't this week anyway because there's no cut. He's been consistently in the mix.
All right. Also, the Sanderson Farms event, Jeff, in Mississippi, and Chesson Hadley, I think, is the favorite this week. And not a very, I mean, especially maybe time of year coinciding with being an alternate event. It's probably the weakest alternate event of the season because of the time of year.
Yeah, it might be. Just in the fall, you have a difficult time getting the established players to not take their off season during the fall and during football season. So there is that. In fact, they had to fill the field. They had to actually add a half dozen guys to get to 78 men in China. So there were 6 guys that did not qualify on merit necessarily to get to China, but they came off the alternate list so that they would have 78 golfers in China. What that might have done is taken them out of Mississippi, where you have the highest ranked player is William McGirt, who we have not seen since the playoffs.
Wow.
But now, saying that, remember that we also have Chesson Hadley, who leads the group of guys who have just been promoted up from the Web.com tour. Some of those guys ended the season on a hot streak, and really first-time winners have kind of become the norm in Mississippi of late. Particularly of late. I think there have been 10 in all that have made Mississippi their first PGA Tour win, but 4 of the past 6 fit that category. So Cody Gribble winning last year. If you're looking for a hot golfer coming off the Web.com tour, still riding a little wave of momentum, Mississippi might be the place for him.
All right, we'll keep that trend in our back pocket. And I mean, there are some former major champs there, like Retief Goosen and Davis Love, and you also have Hunter Mahan trying to get his game going again. So he's there. So yeah, I mean, there are some names there, but not the type, especially with Hadley being the favorite and Jason Kokrak being the second choice. Not a very deep field. But speaking of China, because there's probably about 15 to maybe 20 players that a lot of people who even follow the PGA Tour have never heard of playing this week. So in the WGC event, and whether it's you can't even pronounce their name or you just never heard them before, Joel, give me a player. Like if you're looking at the list of 200 to 1 or more of those guys, and you're going, boy, who are these guys? I mean, just throw these guys away from my fantasy pool. Because I don't even know who they are, or can you pick a player or two and go, well, not so fast. Keep an eye on this guy.
Yeah, and there are a few out there. I mean, everyone, in the 200 to 1 range, there's some interesting names there. Michael Lorenzo Vera, he was a pretty highly regarded when he first came in, and it seems to be coming back around lately. He was tied 10th at the Italian Open this year, or recently. And in his last 5 European Tour starts, he's been -5 or better, and there's 2 top 10s in there. He's had several good results in China too. He was tied 11th of Volvo China Open. He had some good results there back late last decade. Another guy we kind of got on the Digital Ally Open on the Web.com tour earlier this year, kind of lost in the whole Steph Curry thing. Was there was a Chinese winner there, Marty Dow. He's listed on the odds as Zheng Dao. He's earned his PGA Tour card this year. He won 4 events in China last year. That's 200 to 1 odds. He's a very young guy, but he's someone who definitely feels comfortable there. And if you want to go really deep, 750 to 1. Wen Chong Liang, and people might be a little familiar with him. He contended at the PGA that one year, I believe, 2010. He's got 21 career victories, and he hasn't won as recently as April and on the Japanese tours, which, I mean, at 39, he's not completely done yet. But there were some recognizable names in that field that he won at, and 750 to 1 odds if he's feeling that. Yeah.
Everybody's got $1, but at least we would hope so. Who was that second name? Would you say 200 to 1?
Marty Dow.
Marty Dow?
Yeah, they call him Marty. It's Zheng Dao.
How do you spell it?
Zechang. DOU.
Why am I not seeing that? 200 to 1?
I have him at 500 to 1.
Ah, that's why. Now I can see him. Okay. Zheng Dao.
Oh, yeah. For some reason, I thought he was 200. Yeah, well, that's even better then. That's more over double.
Well, that was your Lorenzo Vera guy. So, okay. Nice. A 200, a 500, and a 750. There you go. $3, and all you need is 1. Jeff, what about you? Anybody on there?
Well, I was going to mention Zheng Dao, or in China it's Dou Zhexing, because the family name comes first. And he's not the only one that has earned a PGA Tour card off the Web.com from China. You go way down to 1,000 to 1, and you'll find Zhang Xinjun, who also is a graduate and played his first PGA Tour event at the Safeway Open a few weeks ago. So there are 2 Chinese graduates from the Web.com Tour this year. Expect to see a few more. In fact, PGA Tour is opening a satellite tour in China for 2018, and it will have the opportunity, like the Canadian Tour and the Latin American Tour, those top money winners will get onto the Web.com Tour, and now you're in the pipeline. One more name I'll throw at you is a former Web.com guy who lost his way a little bit, but is starting to play better of late, and that is Ashley Hall. He's Australian, and he is at 750 to 1.
Okay, interesting. Well, let's hope that one of these players is in contention, so we can reference back here. And if it's one of these, if it's one of these players that I don't know how to pronounce their name, I'll just take your word for it. That you said, I said that guy. Don't you remember? I'll go, okay. I must have missed it, but you're right. I couldn't quite get it anyway. But that this is their opportunity, because we saw. Remember, it was just a couple years ago. The Hao Tong Lee had that. What was it? 7th, I believe. Is that what he finished? When he 7th? Yeah, a couple years ago. Now, of course, he's got a lot of talent. Any of those players that you just talked about, any of those guys got Hao Tong Lee talent?
Well, I think we're not sure quite, how it stands up against the tougher fields. The fact that Do Zhesheng won a Web.com event, that puts him in pretty good company.
Okay.
Because there are only 30 Web.com winners in any given year, and so he has won on a larger level. I'll throw another one at you at 350 to 1. Wu Ashun. I'm kind of in the Chinese contingent here, but he spent a few years on the European tour. He's kind of streaky, hot and cold. Missed a lot of cuts during the summer, but he's got 3 top 10s in a 5-start span of late.
All right.
Also streaky, Ryan Fox is at 200 to 1 too. He's been terrible lately. He went on a tear for a little bit.
Yeah, he
a few
did.
months ago. He had that 6.44 stretch. He's a long hitter too. 200 to 1. Not bad.
Yeah, but as you said, he hasn't made cuts recently, so probably not the week to go with him. But we'll keep an eye on him in the future. All right, Joel. So what else is going on over at ProGolfWeekly.com?
Oh, thanks, Greg. Yes, please check out Pro Golf Weekly at ProGolfWeekly.com. You can get all the stats, videos, compelling analysis, key highlights, and best in social media for every Pro Tour worldwide, including the PGA and the LPGA tours. This week at Pro Golf Weekly, we've kind of upped the primers lately. We've got a lot of in-depth previews of the events. There's mine of this tournament, which goes into depth about a lot of the players on there, but we also have, we have it for the QQQ this week, the senior event, and also, LPGA. We have a lot of information going into these things this week, so definitely check those out, and in the videos that accompany them. But also, ProGolfWeekly.com, best in social media, a one-stop web portal for all pro golf tours worldwide. You can follow me at Joel J. Cook on Twitter for latest updates, commentary, and more. And tune in when we do this again next week.
Yeah, you got 3 more weeks you could say that, I think. And then you have to think of something else. Say tune back in 6 weeks or something like that. 4 weeks. How long is our break? 4 weeks? 5 weeks?
I believe it's 4.
The whole month
of
December?
Take a 5-week break.
5-week break? Okay.
Thanksgiving, and then 4 weeks in December.
And then we come back in Hawaii.
It depends if you count that Hero World Challenge to be a break. There's only 18 players at it.
But that counts now, right, Jeff?
No, it's not official.
Well, it counts for world ranking points, but it is not a PGA tour. It's not an event on any tour. It's just kind of a specialty event that has just enough players in the field of just enough caliber to earn world ranking points.
Okay. And so it's quality field now because of that, right? All 18 players?
Yeah, you actually have 16 of the top 20 in the world rankings that have accepted invitations.
And when is that?
That will be the first weekend in December.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it starts on November 30th.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, Joel, appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thank you.
You got it. That's Joel Cook. Jeff, as far as your Around the Tours report, that's available right now at primesportsnetwork.com. Also, your first look reports at pgatour.com. And by the way, on your Around the Tours report, some of the things we did not talk about today that you can read on that report, Fred Ridley now in charge at Augusta National, U.S. Women's Open coming to Pebble Beach, Barbasol Championships leaving Alabama. Jeff will tell you where it's going. And last week's winner on the LPGA Tour in Taiwan, somebody that had not won for 8 years. So that is what you can check out on Jeff Shane's Around the Tours report at primesportsnetwork.com. And that will wrap it up. So, Jeff, next week, what do we have next week again? Barbasol? Is that what it was?
No, Barbasol is actually the event that is opposite the Open Championship. So that's
what
the
did I come up with
event
Barbasol?
that's leaving Alabama.
Oh, that was the one.
Which, in a sense, doesn't come as a surprise because playing in July in South Alabama can be a pretty daunting idea. But next week is we come back to this hemisphere, and it is the Shriners Hospital for Children Open in Las Vegas, and that starts the final 3-week push west to east, Las Vegas, Cancun or Mayakoba, and ending at Sea Island, Georgia.
And Rob Pampling's defending champion, so that was a big shock that Rob Pampling won, but he did, and that shows you how anything can happen this time of year. He was a big long shot. Maybe we'll get another one, and if so, hopefully we'll hit him. Jeff, appreciate it, and enjoy the golf starting tonight, right? 10 o'clock, is it, Eastern, on Golf Channel?
Yeah. The last of the late night, early morning weeks for the PGA Tour, but next 2 nights, 10 to 4, and then on the weekend, 11 to 4.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeff. We'll talk to you next week.
Take care.
All right, that's Jeff Shane, and that'll wrap it up here for Prime Sports Golf on the Prime Sports Radio Network. Once again, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at PrimeSN. You can receive all of our up-to-date news, opinions, and on-demand programming alerts. We'll also see you not only on Wednesday for our golf show for the next several weeks, but all of our other programming, including, actually, just taking a look at the calendar, our next scheduled show, besides some interviews that I'll be doing later on today in college football, will be our NFL preview, Our Lads football show tomorrow, and also our college football preview on Friday. So thanks for tuning in here to Prime Sports Golf on the Prime Sports Radio Network.